Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. In this video, we are taking the 2021 Toyota Prius XLE all-wheel drive E for a drive in the city, mountain, and highway environments. Yes, we're actually going to shred this thing up a canyon. Now, this is the all-wheel drive Prius. We have to see, is this system worth it? Does it make a difference in everyday driving? Because you do lose 3 miles per gallon going with this all-wheel drive system. So we're going to take it out, again, driving around the city, ripping up the canyons, and a cruise down the highway to test the autonomous driving situation, basically the assisted driving systems. So let's get in and do it. We are starting our city portion of the video in the city, or I should say right by my street. Clouds are coming in, so it was just sunny all day and now the clouds are rolling, but that's okay. This thing's got windshield wipers. So we're in the Prius XLE all-wheel drive E. So many different names here, and what that really means is we have a hybrid battery pack that is actually different than the normal Prius battery pack. The all-wheel drive ones get a nickel metal hydrate kind of thing. I don't actually know, I'll have to look it up, but yeah, basically different battery pack in the all-wheel drive than the normal Prius. And we do these videos for almost every car we test. We test them in the 3 main environments we think that owners will take them into, which is driving around the city, ripping up and down the highway, just cruising at 70, 75 miles an hour. And then also we take them on a little canyon blast to judge vehicle handling dynamics. So right now I have the car in eco mode. There are 3: eco, normal, and power. Of course we'll use power for the canyons. What I'm really curious about though is how the Prius handles the canyons, especially with this all-wheel drive system. Now this all-wheel drive system, I believe, only works below 12 miles per hour. And if you go above 12, it will only kick on a little bit if it gets front wheel spin. It's only a 7 horsepower electric motor on the rear axle, so is it even enough to call it all-wheel drive, or is this just a pure marketing scheme? And that's kind of what I'm thinking it might be, because 7 horsepower just does not seem like enough power to put on an axle to have any bit of useful bits. But we are going to do a whole video just on the all-wheel drive system, put it on some really snowy, slippery slopes, floor it, and just see if it gets any wheel spin on the back. And if not, then it might just not be helpful at all. So let's talk about what the Prius is in the city. Now, most of you probably have been in a Prius or multiple Prii, which is the plural of Prius, and they're great in the city. Look, you sit around with the engine off in eco mode. It's really nice. You have really good electric instant torque. Actually, it's not fast, but just cruising around like this, it's quiet and comfortable. And like, these things are cabs in New York City, and they can take a beating, and they're incredibly efficient around town. You have regenerative braking. Every time you lift off the accelerator pedal, it increases when you touch the brake pedal with regen blending. And they're just like nice cars to drive around the city. Certainly it's not exciting, but we have a written site as well, outofspecstudios.com, where our editor Liam had this for the last couple days, and he's like the most sports car enthusiast driver guy, and he's like, dude, I really like it. I'm like, I know, it's not bad. It's just like, if you have a whole bunch of sports cars in the garage, this is kind of what you just want to get groceries in, and it'll just work, and it flies under the radar. I mean, I don't think it's a good looking car. I don't think it's a bad looking car. I think it's just a car, and everyone kind of knows what a Prius is. It's nothing new and exciting. The exciting bit with this particular car is the all-wheel drive system, which I'm definitely interested in testing, like I said. But in terms of driving around, it's just like any other Prius. This one does have some extra technology on it: blind spot monitoring, lane centering, adaptive cruise control, all of the good stuff. So right now I have it on adaptive cruise control. I'm going to put the distance to the closest here. There we go. So now we're sitting on adaptive cruise, and I'm just going to raise the speed up, which is pushing this up, I guess, to like 45 miles an hour. You can't just hold it up when you're stopped, apparently. So the car in front's moved, and it is accelerating. So like cruising around the city, what more do you need? Just put it on adaptive cruise, and it just does the driving for you. Honestly, it's just great at this. You know, I'm going to repeat myself over and over. You all know what the Prius is good at. It's one of the best city cruisers because it's got tons of space. This one apparently is all-wheel drive, flies under the radar, really nimble handling, and it's driving itself in its lane right now, which is so great. So we know it's good in the city. Let's take it up into the canyons for a rip up our favorite road and see how it does. I am actually pretty curious. We are arriving just to the base of the canyon, so let's get this thing set up. I'm going to first turn off traction control, which I think I actually have to do when I'm stopped. So we'll do that later on if we feel it gets in the way, but it may not. And there's a car behind me, so I don't want to let it go up. We are going to put it into power mode. I've driven in a way to try and charge up the high voltage battery as much as possible. And then also a little Prius trick for those of you who may not know, drive it in B mode. B is for braking, and what it does is it helps charge up the battery, because if you just wail on it all the way up the hill, of course you will run out of high voltage battery. I have my indication here on the screen. The roads are wet, but that's okay. We're not going to be going that hard. We are in a Prius after all, and we're just going to be cruising. So first off, the engine does not rev very high. It's an Atkins cycle 4-cylinder, so you can see wide open throttle. It's a pretty much on-off switch in this car because it doesn't have that much power, and so we're just going to be running. Now, for the most part, this is going to be front-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive isn't really going to help us here unless we get some wheel spin, but again, it's only 7 horsepower, so we're full regenerative braking there. We've already lost a couple bars on the battery, so we'll see if we even have any battery left by the time we get to the top of the hill. This is one of my favorite roads through here. And yeah, we test every car on this road, but definitely have to be careful today because a lot of salt on the roads and it's pretty wet, so we're just going to be taking it easy. We have the perfect car for it. So wide open throttle in power mode in a Prius. Now, I have actually driven a Prius on the tail of the Dragon before, and have really run down some other cars, and it's actually not as bad as many people think. Like, they actually handle pretty well. Really good turn-in, surprisingly. Really nice chassis calibration on limit. Like, I like the way they drive, because you kind of just keep your foot planted down. Now, bear in mind, I'd be going much faster if I knew the roads were dry, but you'll get up to sections like this where it's a little slushy, so we're just going to be taking it easy. I don't think the all-wheel drive is going to really help us much. This thing, especially up here at altitude, feels really slow. Just no way around it. We're already almost out of battery. We have 2 out of like 8 bars, but it's pulling us up just fine. I really like the way this car drives. I mean, the steering has almost no feel, but the steering wheel itself is nice and small, and you can nibble around. A little bit of wheel spin on the way out there, inside wheel spin, traction control just a hair, but that's okay. Really didn't interfere or lock down what I wanted to do. So we're just running at full power. And on the brakes, really good car actually, like in terms of balance, in terms of feel and fun. Like, it can definitely hustle up a road and seriously surprise some cars. Really the biggest lacking point here is the acceleration. You can just tell it's and let's pitch it in. It's really fun because you're in a Prius. It's just going to be careful with all this salt on the ground and power out. Yeah, it's just gutless. That's really the only problem. You know, anytime you hear the engine going, my foot's full throttle. I'm just planted. And so you kind of just drive around everywhere at wide open throttle. It's so funny. And really not that bad. That guy's ripping. We just hit 60, of course. I lifted in a couple sections where I thought it might be slippery. Driving in B mode is great because every time I lift off the accelerator pedal, the car starts to slow down. And what it's doing is it's using the electric motor to regen, but it's also using the engine as an engine brake with the CVT to stay in high RPMs to slow us down. So what do we have in terms of power? 121 horsepower, I believe. I think it's only 98 horsepower is from the gas engine, and the rest is supplemented with the electric motors. Total system horsepower is less than the peak power output of the electric side and less than the peak output of the engine side. They kind of blend. It's just the way Toyota does their hybrids for the most part. So It's just, you just drive everywhere wide open. And this drivetrain doesn't care. It's really proven. Listen to that engine staying right up there at high revs when we were engine braking there. That's good. And actually, it's interesting. Now I've gone wide open throttle, and it's charging the high voltage battery. So it basically said, hey, we've run out of juice. I'll charge it up a little bit more. So we've already, just a couple minutes into this section here, what are we, about 5-6 minutes into our canyon drive, have drained the high voltage battery. I started with it nearly full. I think we were 1 bar off top. And now at wide open throttle, it's charging up the battery, but it's also really slow. Like, it has no power. I'm floored at 48, 49, 50, 51, 52. Like, it's just, nothing's happening here. It's just screaming. It's really quite interesting, actually. The engine's just working as hard as it can. But anytime I put my foot down, you can see it's charging up that battery. And yeah, we're floored. So the Prius is actually a great chassis. The drivetrain is meant for efficiency, not for this kind of driving. But when you do come up here, it's really funny. Look, we're not gaining any speed. I'm floored. 55. We've been 55 the whole way up this hill at full throttle. It is gotta be the slowest car I've ever driven up here, for sure. I mean, it just at altitude plus uphill plus kind of cold weather and this stuff on the road, you just keep it floored like this, and that's kind of how you drive it. But it's fun. It's kind of fun. It's, you know, something enjoyable about driving a slow car fast is hilarious. But you're definitely, like, we lost speed going up that hill. I've been planted this entire time. I think this is the longest wide open acceleration we've ever run up this hill. The engine's just being pegged to charge up the battery. Now, when I had the RAV4 Prime on this road, which is another interesting Toyota product, it actually overheated the high voltage system climbing up this hill, because again, we gained thousands of feet of elevation. We have, you know, thin air at high elevation, and also I'm driving them quite hard, and it just shut off the entire electric components altogether. And here it doesn't seem to be doing that. It's just trying to charge up the battery. Wow, that engine's revving way higher than I've had it rev my entire time. It just must be sitting at red line. Look, I'm off the accelerator pedal. It's just trying to charge up the electric system. It's really funny. And the funny thing is, you can go wide open past everyone and no one knows you're trying to drive quickly. It's like the ultimate stealth bomber. It's a great car to buy your kids, because it is a good, I'm going to turn off the lane keeping thing. It's a good car to learn cornering in, because it really teaches you as a momentum vehicle how to sustain smooth speed through corners like this. And it's really not bad at that kind of stuff. And man, what more is there to say about the Prius? It is not fast, but it does have a good chassis. But good luck getting enough speed to actually get any sort of lateral G in a corner. That's basically what it comes down to. And now we have battery helping us. It must have charged up enough. I'm gonna let off and let it charge up the battery down the straightaway at moderate acceleration. We got to go up that little section of wide open throttle and power mode, and we'll see if we can keep up with the BMW down the fun section. Oh, we're losing power. We actually lost speed there. I can feel it dying down. Let's see how it does. I know he's gonna rip because he floored it past me before, and then I thought, let's see if the Prius can chase him down. Okay, we can see here he's taking it easy on the slippery stuff. That is good. And yeah, let's see how he drives when we get down to the bottom of the hill. But right now we're just going to take this opportunity to charge up the high voltage system, charge up the battery. This stuff's so slick, you do not want to mess around. Like, that's just, we're already slipping doing that. Traction control is turned off. Good. We have engine braking going here. little bit of anti-lock brakes coming in. The tight stuff. Super salty. Driving down the mountain, we have achieved a full battery state of charge, so no problem there. I thought this BMW in front of us was going to rip pretty hard, but he's just cruising slow, and honestly, that's the best thing for the conditions. This lane is definitely not nearly as well maintained as the other lane on the way up, so definitely smart just to cruise down, but cool to burn all the juice on the way up and recharge the high voltage battery on the way down. It is an air-cooled battery, I believe, no liquid thermal management, but it seems to be performing fine in stupid cold weather, and even here at driving it hard, no complaints, no overheating, unlike the RAV4 Prime, so pretty neat.